Hey, what's up, guys? I'm gonna be at work in about 7 hours, but it's a nice windy night, and I figure I would go over this now. A little misnomer here in terms of, well, not a misnomer. U.S. Marine Corps tanks of World War II. My focus here is not on the Marines. Okay, as much as I disparage America, I mean, no one can dispute that the Marines were like pretty much the toughest, one of the toughest sons of bitches that you had in the military in the last 20th, the last century. This book, though, what I'm trying to focus on is more on, and I need to remedy that. I don't have enough books about the Japanese. Okay, this is really about, to me, about the Japanese. Although it's an interesting thing. You had the Marine Corps; they wanted their own tanks, so they had these Marmon Harrington tanks, which are supposedly like really, really bad tanks, but they were lighter, and the Marines thought it would be easier to transport them. They actually had some of these in Indonesia, and they had the only combat the Americans used these tanks for, the turreted version, was in the Aleutian Islands. Very interesting, a very relatively unknown Pacific War thing. Very crazy, very creepy, very insane. But anyway, of course, the first is there's one of the turreted versions. We'll put one machine gun. We'll put three machine guns in front of their Mac. So what's cool about Guadalcanal, right? The M2, right? The M2 was only used. Right? The M2 tanks, the Stuart tanks. The M2 was only used in this battle, and some of the battles with the Stuarts, with the Japanese infantry, was really bad. They learned to fight in pairs, right? And one tank would spray the other. They actually did that in Korea too. But like I said, the Japanese, like the Italians, did not really have any good anti-tank weapons. So the infantryman was often the one to right do close range attacks using satchel charges and all kinds of things. I mean, Japanese, they even put like wrenches into like the gears here to stop these things, and sometimes it worked. Yeah. Uh, and the Japanese infantry, like I said, like the Italian, like the Germans in the Soviet Union, when they didn't have really good anti-tank guns, right? The Panzerjägers. In the end, the people knocking out the tanks was the infantryman. Okay, a theme I'm going to cover in a little short film I'm going to try to maybe get done this year. Okay, like I had shown in the Spanish Civil War a book, the guy with the two mines ready to run out there and stop the tank at the cost of his own life. Because the Japanese tanks were never a match, like the Italian tanks. They fell behind, right? They were made in the 30s, and they had to still keep going through the 40s as the other nations' tanks developed, and eventually the Marines start using the M4s. But they have to make adjustments because of the Japanese infantry. Like here's a knocked out tank. If you actually look at the tanks, right? Especially as the war went on in the Pacific, the Japanese knocked out a lot of them. Okay, maybe they weren't all total losses, but many were knocked out of commission through infantry tactics, and of course later the Japanese would hide their 47 millimeter cannons and hit it from the side. So here's a picture right here. Here's a powerful photo. Right, the poverty of Japanese infantry anti-tank weapons led to the use of desperate close assault tactics using satchel charges and mines. Right, like the Italians at El Alamein, like the Germans in Russia. Right? Although sometimes effective, as in the case of this Marine M4 knocked out, it came at the price of high casualties. Now look at this picture. Now that look at all these dead Japanese soldiers, but they did it. Okay, they knocked this sucker out. This is interesting too. An actual Japanese illustration. You can see it's Japanese style art too. Illustration from a Japanese anti-tank manual. Okay, of course, this is they found this on Saipan. Okay, this is obviously that's a Russian BT-7, right? The sort of a variation of the Christie tank, the tank, the design that would form the basis of the T-34s, and also many of the British tanks in North Africa. But you see the interesting manual here: Molotov cocktail, grenades, several grenades wrapped together, mines of different sorts, a mine on a stick. Hey, right, and what are these? Smoke, right? The use of smoke, very effective tactic. You throw a lot of smoke around. It's hard for the tankers to see. You can get close to them, right, without being seen by the other tanks. Obviously, a lot of Japanese infantry died in these battles, but they really put a hurting on these Marine tankers, to the point where obviously the Marines started to make modifications to the tanks. Like right here is an example. The magnetic mines were very popular. Of course, the Germans had the shape charges with the magnets on it. I don't know what the Japanese magnetic mine was. I need to get the book on that. But you can see here, what is that? What they started to do was they started to put a layer of concrete and wood on the side. Okay, this was so that Japanese soldiers couldn't run up. If you put a magnetic mine on here, it's gonna fall off. Right? They also started putting these little bird cages around. These were for satchel charges, where they couldn't open up and throw them in. They also started to put spikes. Okay, these were also useful for extra protection because the Japanese started to use the new 47mm cannon, which was already outdated by the early 40s. But they used to hide them good, and you get side shots on the M4. Right? And of course, here's one here, and this one they have penny nails, right? What is this? Bird cages, spikes they would put on here, the concrete, the wood, right? They started to do this too because the Japanese would sell the satchel charges on the tank, right? You disable the tank, you can isolate it and swarm it. So they started to put these coverings over it. You can see that these guys have. Look at this dude, looks exhausted. They had to do this, but as they started to go on, getting closer, Pelyu, right? Saipan, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, the tank losses were getting higher and higher. Okay, really interesting. Man, these Japanese fought damn hard, man. You gotta give them respect. And of course, their artillery. And at one point, Japanese started to take torpedoes. And turning torpedoes into mines, right? So they would put torpedoes underneath. Some of them would blow up these M4s. The damn thing, the turret would fly like almost 100 feet in the air. Okay, of course the crews were all wiped out. And they started welding tracks to the side. A lot of people did that, but look at this one. Look at all the spikes covering it, right? So the Japanese can't even grab onto it's hard for them to grab onto these the openings, the concrete, the wood, the thing covering the treads. And still, this one got hit by an artillery. Right? The Japanese got smart eventually. They stopped doing the banzai attacks and started letting them come in. Okay, the tank losses got higher and higher with each battle. So. Much respect to the Japanese infantry. These guys fought to the death. Okay, look at this one here. Now they literally welded extra tracks to the side, to the turret. They covered the things here so you couldn't throw satchel charges. And still, look at this, man. All right, blown to shit. All right. Who am I rooting for? Whatever. These guys were a player. Look at this. Mostly because, as usual, the Japanese tanks weren't an issue. It was the infantry and it was the artillery that was hidden. Anyway, and that was it. As they were being defeated, more and more American tanks would get knocked out by these guys. So, All respect to the Japanese soldier. Ooh, and I'm a Chinese shell, but you know what? You know, you gotta give respect. You got enough people demonizing everybody. I'm gonna do the opposite. Okay, when you're a man and you're on the side that's gonna lose because you don't even have a chance, and you go against these metal monsters and you still do it. How can you not respect that? Okay, if you're a real man. Just saying. All right. Sayonara. You'll die, Marine. And all respect to the Marines too. So, all right. Oh, you're being a cock tonight. Yeah, yeah. I guess I'm feeling kind of mellow tonight. So, all right.